SpongeBob SquarePants Mysteries, Stage Fright. Chapter 6. Being a detective's a little like being a fry cook. You gotta start with a plan, a recipe, a pile of ingredients, and a step-by-step procedure for whipping up a delicious batch of Krabby Patties. But as things go along, you gotta adjust. Maybe one patty's a little thicker than the others. Maybe the power goes off. Maybe the Flying Dutchman bursts out of the fridge to scare you out of your hat and name tag. Point is, you improvise, depending on what Lady Luck tosses your way. Still, you start with a plan. That's just the way the private eye biz works. Don't like it? Stick to something safer, like wrestling giant clams. The way I see it, SpongeBob explained to Sandy, this big shot director, Martin Dorado, isn't going to be too happy about a visit from a couple of detectives. Sandy nodded. Makes sense to me, partner. But if we can't go in the theater, how are we going to figure out which low-down rattlesnake is trying to ruin the show? Oh, we'll go in the theater all right, SpongeBob assured her, smiling slyly. We'll just go in undercover. Undercover? Sandy asked. As what? The next day, SpongeBob and Sandy approached the Drippy Lane Theater wearing leotards, leg warmers, dance shoes, and headbands. Sandy's headband was stretched around the glass air helmet she always wore outside of her treat room. They carried headshots and sheet music. I don't know about the SpongeBob, Sandy worried. Sandy, you're gonna be great, SpongeBob said, trying to raise her confidence. But I told you, performance not my thing. I've heard you sing and play the guitar, SpongeBob pointed out, and you put your song across with feeling and emotion. That's what performing is all about. Sandy looked doubtful. There's a big difference between singing a sad ballad because you yourself are personally missing Texas and standing on a big empty stage belting our tune for an audience of paying customers. No, there isn't, SpongeBob argued. I learned all about it back when I was in the Little Drips theater classes. You just have to forget about the audience and imagine you're feeling sad. You use your imagination to create the scene. As he said the word imagination, SpongeBob traced a rainbow arc with his hands. A multicolor image of the word shimmered in the air. How did you do that? Sandy asked, amazed. The important thing is, SpongeBob reassured her, I've heard you sing and I've seen you dance. You got loads of natural talent, so you're gonna do just fine. He held up the papers in his hand. Now, do you have your sheet music ready for the accompanist? Yup, Sandy sighed, holding up her music. And your headshot? I couldn't find a picture of just my head, so I brought this. She held up a photo of her zooming down Mount Deadly, standing on a clamshell, holding her arms straight out. The path she'd blazed behind her had burst into flames. A character shot, huh? SpongeBob said, stroking his chin. Well, I guess it'll just have to do. The picture's not that important anyway. The important thing is your song and the dance audition. That's what'll get you into the show. Dance audition? Sandy asked nervously. You never said anything about a dance audition. I didn't prepare a dance. SpongeBob chuckled. Oh, Sandy, you don't prepare your dance audition. After you sing, the choreographer teaches you a dance, and you have to do it right then and there on the spot. What? Sandy screeched. That sounds terrifying. Yeah, it kind of is, SpongeBob admitted. But that's how auditions for musicals go. Come on, let's hurry. He ran into the decrepit building through the stage door. Sandy steeled herself and followed him in. The second SpongeBob entered the Drippy Lane Theater, he was instantly transported back to his days as a little drip. He remembered everything. The dark spaces backstage where you waited for your cue to step into the light. The sound of the musicians tuning up their instruments down in the orchestra pit. even the smell of freshly sawn boards ready to be hammered into sets. He loved it all. He just stood there a moment, soaking it all in. As a highly absorbent sponge, he was very good at soaking. May I help you? Sharpie asked, snapping SpongeBob out of his reverie. Do you have a good reason to be here right now? Because we're trying to rehearse a show. SpongeBob held up his headshot and sheet music. You bet we got a good reason! We're here to audition! Narrowing his eyes suspiciously, the swordfish said, I didn't hear anything about any auditions being scheduled today. Sandy stepped forward. That may be, but you need new cast members, don't you? What with so many actors quitting and all? Who told you that? Sharpie asked, startled. That's not true! Please, mister! SpongeBob pleaded, letting his eyes puddle up with tears. You know I was once a little jerk with this very theater! Those classes taught me so much, and now I'd love to give back into this old theater by helping out with your show! Just give me and Sandy a chance, that's all we ask! Fine, the choreographer said, relenting. He had a soft spot in his heart for desperate performers, having once been one himself. Give me your headshots and sheet music. They handed them over. Sharpie turned and left the two friends on stage. SpongeBob gave Sandy a reassuring wink. Don't worry, he whispered. You're gonna do great. I'm not so sure about that, she whispered back. I'm more nervous than a June bug in a chili jar. Her knees were shaking. Her heart was pounding, and her mouth felt dry. She ran her tongue over her two big front teeth. Sharpie handed the sheet music to the rehearsal pianist. Got a couple of auditioners, he told her. She nodded, bored. She'd played for so many auditions that she could practically accompany singers in her sleep. Sharpie marched up the aisle to Martin Dorado's desk in the audience. The director was looking around for his assistant, Emma. Where is my assistant? She was standing right next to him. I'm right here, sir. He turned toward her. Oh, Emma, plain as sand. You just blend in, don't you? Excuse me, Mr. Dorado, Sharpie interrupted. Yes, Sharpie? The director asked, rolling around to face him. What is it? Two auditioners, sir, Sharpie explained, handing him the headshots. Possible replacements. Dorado exhaled sharply. Fine, let's hear them. Quickly, I've got numbers to rehearse. Sharpie turned back toward the stage. All right, who's first? Let's go! He clapped his hands together twice. Do you want me to go first? SpongeBob whispered to Sandy. I don't mind. No, I'd rather get this over with, Sandy told him. Okay, break a leg. What? That's a horrible thing to say. Sandy, that's how you say good luck in the theater, SpongeBob explained. And remember, sell it with everything you've got. Sandy plastered a big smile on her face. As she stepped into the center of the wide stage, the light glinted off her two front teeth. The piano player launched into her intro. Sandy managed to find her starting note and opened her mouth to sing, a little shakily at first, but gaining confidence as she went along. Oh, some people love to dive real deep and find a treasure chest, but the place I dream of when I sleep is a land they call the West. The West, the West. I love to ride the range out in the West. From the cactus and the sagebrush to the tumbleweeds and cows, for me the West has always been the best. Yodelay, hoo, yodelay, hey, a yodelay, yodelay, yodeloo. As a fish who never visited the West, Mr. Dorado was mystified by the lyrics, but he liked Sandy's yodeling and her tricks with the rope, jumping in and out of hilarious. He was thinking she might be good enough for the chorus, especially if he stuck her at the back and told her not to sing too loudly. At the end of the song, she shouted, "Yee-haw!" and struck a pose, her rope falling into a perfect coil in her hand. Wow! For a moment, the theater was silent. Sandy held her pose, growing more and more nervous. That's fine.
Mr. Dorado finally called from the audience. Sandy felt relieved. Please stay to dance, he said. He added. Her heart sank. She slinked to the back of the stage. Sandy, that was fabulous! SpongeBob whispered. Sandy managed a weak little smile, but she was too much worried about the dance audition to fully embrace her friend's compliment. Next! Sharpie ordered. SpongeBob bounded into the center of the stage with a huge smile on his face. My name is SpongeBob SquarePants, he announced, summoning all the performing energy of his days as a little drip. And I'll be singing Blow a Baby Bubble with Me! Hit it! It was not a song that Mr. Dorado or Sharpie or the piano player had ever heard of, but the accompanist could play anything, as long as she had the sheet music, so she sailed right into this bouncy tune. To the director's ears, it sounded like a children's song and not a very good one, but SpongeBob sang it with great energy, hopping around the stage and giving it everything he had. If you want to have some super duper dippity fun beneath the wavy waves of the bluey blue sea, just grab a jar of super soapy liquid and run to blow a baby bubble with me. At this point in the song, SpongeBob pulled out a jar of bubble solution. He dipped a plastic wand in the container and blew a bubble that looked exactly like a baby fish wearing a diaper. It floated out into the house and popped right in a director's face. Splat! Ah! My eyes! He screamed. Emma ran to fetch a towel. Unaware of Dorado's ocular distress, SpongeBob kept right on singing. Oh, a burpy baby bubble ain't a baby for long. A baby bubble bouncing on a trampoline. A bibbly boddly boodly boddly bing bing bong. A baby bubble grows into a bubble team. Dipping his one into the liquid soap, SpongeBob blew another amazing bubble. This one resembled the first, but was bigger and thinner, as though the baby bubble had grown into a teenage bubble. Somehow, SpongeBob had even managed to capture the soul and expression of a typical teenager. Like its predecessor, the bubble teen flew straight into Dorado's face and popped. Splat! Luckily, the director still had his eyes closed from his unfortunate encounter with SpongeBob's first bubble. But he'd been about to yell at SpongeBob to stop, so his mouth was wide open and he swallowed soapy liquid. He choked. Breathing hard, Emma ran up and tried to wipe the soap off his face with a towel. Who's doing that? He asked. Who's wiping my face? It's me, sir, Emma explained. Your assistant, Emma. When his face was mostly dry, Dorado turned to the stage and roared, Stop! I've heard enough! More than enough! Stay tuned for Chapter 7 coming up soon.